Yeah, I'll send an email with all that stuff. Mr. Hannah, this is John Benoit. He's our LAFCO executive.
Hi, I talked to you on the phone, John.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi.
You're the guy?
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I came out. Say something to him, say something to you. And so,
And give me money.
do you want money?
Yeah,
I got,
write a check, I'll show you how to.
Okay, good. Right. Thanks, Tom.
Morning, Mr. Potts.
Hey, how's it
You
going?
warm?
Yeah, hey, Linda, can I have your car?
Heat wave coming up right here.
I've been up since
It's been everybody in the week.
It's a little colder out here than what I'm used to.
Watching military channel for 3 hours.
That's cute. Yeah, I think you can fairly say that.
Wow.
I'm not liking it much.
Things look good.
Thank you.
How you doing, John?
Okay. Tom, this, I mean, you're familiar, I think I told you about this. This is agreement between the man and the fire district
Yes.
and the,
Yes,
and you're gonna have somebody said.
yes, I am.
If not,
After the
we're
holidays.
not gonna make it.
I figured till January 1st, everything's pretty much
And
done.
we did an agreement, and Retta has a copy of it.
Oh, I'd like
She
to see
approved
that.
it, that you need to
I'd like to
see,
see
and we
that.
all had a meeting there with the fire.
So you got home
people
okay?
and
Yeah, I
the
tried to
county
call you to make sure you got
supervisor, Kathy Al.
Chester to.
Oh, yeah,
No, no,
there was no
Right.
problem
and
at
then
all.
Well,
there
it was
a
a
little
totally
guy
different call
by
myself.
there, her name
Totally
was Pat
different road
Al.
coming
Pat
down.
used to be the board
Yeah.
member there.
I
was wondering how
She's
much
an
different it was
institution
when
in
we
We
Rock
did
County, but she
really
kind of went all over.
under 35
Kathy
degrees
and-
until we got to
and what we-
Chester. That long straightaway, they got to the
It's really
31, but
workable
it was
for
all.
So you'll have to take it from there. I just
Easy
wanna see
peasy.
this thing done.
Yeah.
It's been going on for 20 years, since Kathy.
Well, you can kind of guide me through that, all right?
Yeah, well, just take
Because
a
I
look
don't
at
have a
it.
lot of knowledge of that up there. And I actually had spoken to Aaron and some of the people up there already about this issue, similar issue.
Yeah, that's the thing, the group, Aaron, the group, the Big Valley group, putting through a resolution to initiate the application to LAFCO, rather than going through the petition process. LAFCO is going to please for,
I didn't know.
and,
I've
so.
only had anything
The
in high
resolution
school and college.
Don't put speaker on this pond. And then you'll have to put it forward.
Chip has kind of a nice.
Yes, more.
So they got their boundaries, whatnot now, lined up.
They haven't kind of lined out, they're gonna need some better mapping,
I
but
don't know.
they at least have defined this area.
I think
They've gotten all
that,
the data for
I
you.
think I might have.
Left over from another
Yes.
meeting.
I think
Oh,
so.
can I have that? Oh, this is from my thing. Oh my goodness, Aaron. This is the assessed value of all of the pieces up there. Of in the area, that's only last area.
This is just last.
That's just last, and they haven't finished the MoDOC, they're gonna meet with,
Bless you.
Sherry, the assessor, up in MoDOC County, to get out of MoDOC County. See, I don't know who the principal APCO is, we wanted to do it jointly between the two to approve it, if possible. But we'll find out legally who's what, based on this information.
And John, it's the CSD they're talking about?
The CSD with one service, and that's ambulance and EMS, first responder. Yeah, okay. How are you doing, Bob?
I'm doing good. Surviving, upright.
Did you want this back?
No, there was some extras here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's just the Lassen County valuations for that area,
Ready?
because they're gonna cover there and paid and a lot of other. Okay, there you go, you guys
It will
can
be.
get started.
Hi, Don.
Stay warm.
Drive careful.
I will, I'll stay there.
139's a little chippy, so pay attention. Pay attention to the road.
I have to go on all tourists.
Okay, we'll call a meeting to order. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, announcement of items to be discussed in closed session.
Members, we have a conference with legal counsel on a potential litigation case. We have conference with labor negotiators on 2 properties in Hurlong, and we have an employee evaluation session.
Okay. You shouldn't be here.
What did I say?
Bye.
Did I say labor?
Labor, I think it's real property.
It's real property, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You did say labor, that's what
I
I
did,
wrote down.
oh,
that's why you gave me that weird look, huh, Susan?
No, I missed it.
Oh,
She got it. Okay, we good?
That's her normal weird look.
Mine?
Susan.
Okay.
Perfect time.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll just stand here.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, we pray this day for your ever-enduring guidance. We ask you, cloak us in wisdom and fortitude, that we may dispense our knowledge and facts intelligently among all humanity of whom we serve. Amen. That's the item discussed in closed session.
Members, board met in closed session regarding giving direction to real property negotiators, provided direction to staff on the Hurlong one-stop building on Nevada Street and the preschool, Fort St. Preschool. There were no reportable actions.
And we will continue closed session.
We'll continue closed, I'm sorry, the other item's still here today.
The other item you have to cover. Okay, agenda approval, additions and or deletion. Mark?
Yeah, members, we have a busy day. At 10 o'clock, we have scheduled the juvenile hall report at the request of the Juvenile Justice Commission. And we just received notice that at least one member of the Juvenile Justice Commission can't be here until 11 o'clock. Mr. People in these teaching class today. I would think we're probably also expecting some people to come this in Lassen County. So I guess my question is, do we continue this till later in the afternoon, or do we continue to a date certain to let everybody know that's
Can we continue to next week's meeting?
sure. I mean, it's not time sensitive.
There's no time this afternoon. All
All right, so your direction will be to, okay, continue it till 11 o'clock for Mr. Theobald, and that will be on December 17th and remote for everybody?
That's good for me.
Thank you.
So D2 will come off the agenda. Okay. Any other changes on the agenda?
Well, before you do, I mean, if you've got people coming from Modoc and Plymouth County,
We'll try to get notices out. People, we weren't clear whether they're down or not.
15 minutes from now,
Yeah, right.
I mean, if they drove 2 hours, I think we
I
have
mean, if
to.
they're here, we could let them speak and they wouldn't have to come
Yeah, I
back.
think we need to leave it on the agenda and take any input at 10, but make the announcement at the beginning of the 10 o'clock thing that this is being
That's
continued for board.
So we'll leave it on there for 10, but we will continue to
And
later.
if there are any people from the other counties who want to speak to that, we'll give them the opportunity to speak.
Or anybody else for that matter. I mean, but it's not for the board to have a discussion and report. So we take the input and then invite them to come back next meeting if they want.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other changes on the agenda? We have a motion?
I know it's a long ways away and another man, but the whole, world is kind of rallying or feeling, what's happening in South Africa with Nelson Mandela. So I'd like to adjourn the meeting of Nelson Mandela. Personally, I was in South Africa during, that time and stuff with the ECD. I'd like to send something to Pretoria, to the government offices there. And it was quite emotional. I was also there for the Rugby World Cup when the big South African jumbo jet flew over the stadium. And so I think it would be quite a nice thing. I'm sure that government agencies from all over the globe will be sending condolences, and I'd like Lassen County to be one of those.
We can do that. Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? We have a motion to approve the agenda with the changes.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Okay, we'll move down to public comment. I have no cards. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to comment at this time? Alan? you have one.
Alan Schumacher. I got up here the last meeting and said a little something about the sorriness of the board and what happened at the one stop. And that was kind of nice. I know Mr. Chapman said he was sorry. But about July 12th, I stood up here and held a newspaper about the supervisors that voted to get rid of Tom Stone. The supervisor in the 4th district voted to keep him. And now we have the 4th district deciding that he wants to keep this man here. So the people that voted to keep him, I hope that the newspaper and the radio will advertise that so that we can do something else like we did with District 5.
Anybody else wish to address this?
Good morning. Thank you, Supervisor Powell. My issue has to do, and I have a right to speak about this issue, is about our CEO, Mr. Marty Nichols. I came before this board and talked about a lady by the name of Margaret Van Warmerdam. She was a financial officer with Mr. Nichols when he was the city CEO for Red Blood. She was a financial director. She made the statement that there was information that Mr. Nichols knew at the time as the city CEO for Red Blood, that of the debt of $1.3 million, and let it be known for quite some time. I said that this board should realize that some things don't ever change, and to be concerned about Mr. Nichols. Now you have this local reuse authority, this local LAR problem down at the county. How long did he know that certain things existed before he let this board know about it? I think you should give some consideration about your appraisal of Mr. Nichols. And also, unfortunately, the county council. It seems so strange to me, working in an engineering surveying office, that you have all these people that are very important people in Lassen County, and nobody looked at what was really for sale as that property is described. Nobody looked at it. Why not? Why didn't somebody of their stature and their administrative abilities, why didn't they look at this description and that RFP? Why didn't they? Could it be that they don't really know? Could it be that? And they just said, oh, so-and-so can take care of it, and so-and-so. But nobody, after time, after time, after time, nobody looked at the description of the sale of that property. Even when it was known, someone suggested that, is this property for sale? It never dawned on them that it wasn't for sale, but it was there. My issue is, you've got to look at, do these people do their job? I want to bring up one other thing. It was stated that the LRA bid was not something that the county wanted to take over. Well, if I remember correctly, there was a person by the name of Eric McCain, who was the District 5 Supervisor, and he was the board member that was in charge of the executive committee for the LRA. That board was abolished. And it was abolished by the board of supervisors. It was brought up by Mr. Chapman that they wanted that board abolished. They voted on it, and they abolished by that group of people. There were like 7 of them. And then it was turned over to Bill Bixby to be the administrator at the time. And then from Mr. Bill Bixby, after he got things in order, after that committee was abolished by this board, not this board, one person only stays in the board, that's Mr. Chapman. So I'm going to exclude all the rest of you guys. And then after Mr. Bill Bixby decided that, well, he could hand it over to the new director of the Economic Development Department, and his name is Joe Cotty. And you know where that brought us forward. I want to set the record straight. There was a committee that worked with it to run and investigate what was happening down in this district. It was abolished by a certain group of people, of which Mr. Chapman was a part of it. So it wasn't as if they didn't want to take it over or didn't want to manage it. Thank you very much.
Anybody else wish to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move on. We'll take up real fast, unagenda reports by board members. Eric?
Yeah, I attended the RCRC meeting down there in Sacramento last week, and it was kind of interesting because Calaveras, San Benito, and Tulare, they also got a new courthouse, and they're looking at possibly taking some action against the state because they're having problems like just as Dean has talked about and that Mr. Burns has talked about as far as having the staff to get extra staff to take care of the jail and the time and food and whatnot, so that might be, so that was Calaveras, San Benito, and Tulare to, looking to go to get something done so they can get some more money for their general fund, because it's just, we don't have the staffing or the people doing the money to take care of it in jail. So anyways, that was one thing that was brought up. Also, their RCRC is putting together a new website, and they would like a high-quality photo of something representing Lassen County. So, we need to get that to them.
We'll do that calendar.
There you go. Let's see, then they talked about the percentage of the Rural Schools Act, which I see is on our agenda, which is good. Also, if we want to have some, put in some written comments to the RCRC policy, we need to get that in, they're going to be adopted in January. And then also, they were talking about the groundwater concept plan by the state, and I think we need to write a letter, because in here it says, it's talking about the water board. Additionally, the state water board has broad constitutional authority to prevent the waste and unreasonable use of the state's water resources, including groundwater. So, I think we need to write a letter in opposition to that, because there's, the state's saying thing on all the groundwater too.
And that letter would go to who?
And that letter would go to the state water board. Yes.
Was there any update on the, you know, the PIL monies owed for the Department of Fishing? There was those counties where they're gonna.
We didn't have any update on that, it's just,
Do
it's the
we
same
have,
push they've been trying to get for years. And
were we able to get that organized? Because there was some timelines in there, and it was by the end of December, so we only have one more meeting this year.
We're preparing an invoice to the state.
I know you gave your stuff to Regina, remember something?
yeah, I give it to
Yeah.
the union, which she, and I also talked to Marty about it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was on, gets on our thing. I was gonna ask, because we need to get it for next week.
Right. And then,
There was the invoices that we had to send off and stuff, right?
right, get to the state, we couldn't publish or something. I think was a deal. And then also, they, of course, they were talking about, which Jim was well aware of, I think he made mention of it last week, on water storage through CSAC, on the water bond that's coming up. And then, just for information, it was just kind of neat that they were talking about the Indian tribes and the gaming, and that 1/4 of all the recognized Indian tribes in the nation are right here in California. 25%. It was kind of interesting. There was 0 casinos back in 1988, and there's over 70 Indian casinos today in California. So,
Okay.
that's what I found.
Jim?
Yeah, a couple items, Mr. Chairman. Yesterday was, LAFCO had its meeting, and it was, routine in nature, but there was one item of business, and this maybe would be a benefit for Aaron as well, but they're looking to create a community service district up in the Big Valley area, which would include territory both in Modoc and Lassen County, and would extend as far over as to Termo, because John Benoit, I don't know if you met him this morning, he was going to be looking for you, Tom, but anyway, in order for this, they're looking to maybe have something on the ballot up there to vote on for the ambulance service for next June, but in order to get this in a position to be able to make that, they have to get this district going, and the process involves having it be initiated by the respective counties. So John had given Larry and I, and I'm going to give this to Susan. This is a resolution. We probably should get this on next week's agenda. because of the time frame. If we wait until January 14th, by the time LAFCO would have to act on this as early as February in order to be able to put something together, in order for them to be able to be in position to get something framed up for a ballot measure for a fee to support it, the ambulance service up there, which is basically non-existent right now on the June ballot. So I just want to bring that out and do that for Aaron as well. So you might want to.
So what would be the action next week?
So anyway, but that
Yeah,
was one
great.
request that came out of the LAFCO meeting. The other item is actually, I'm going to spend more of the time to discuss it on item G4, which is on the consent agenda, which I'm going to be asking that you pull off. I did attend last Wednesday, the last meeting of the Northeast Resource Advisory Council for BLM. It's actually being abolished. They're going to be merging the Northwest RAC and the Northeast RAC into one RAC for all of Northern California sometime next year when we get the approvals from Washington. And the big focus of the meeting was dealing with the sagebrush. And there has been, the RAC took, well, because they didn't have a full quorum, they passed on recommendations from the subcommittee we've been working on in terms of input on this sagebrush. And we had several members in the audience. Joe Marie was there along with others from the coordinating council, but it was we even had people phoning in the meeting from Miami, Florida, and San Antonio, Texas, and stuff. They were mostly concerned about the wild horses and being abused and so forth. But and then Wednesday evening they did have a public hearing or public input on the EIS for the sage grouse and taking input. The deadline for that is January 29th. Now, what's on the consent calendar is for us to send a letter from the board, and I appreciate staff, both Galen and Matt May were in attendance for most of the meeting. Maury came in at the end of the meeting, so we did have staff representation there throughout the meeting itself, and so they did get this on the agenda for consideration of this letter. Jack Henson was in attendance, and from the public, he also requested that they consider an extension. It was pretty clear from Nancy Haig, the district director, that BLM is not going to be entertaining any extensions on this document because of the time frame that exists with the court interventions, and apparently whatever has to be done by September. So any sort of extensions kind of upsets that particular time frame of being able to be implemented. But I still think it's important that we do give that input in request. But as a parallel to that, I'd like to ask that on the January 14th meeting that we have an agenda item placed on there for response to the sage-grouse EIS. And the BLM RAC has come up with a number of critical inputs along that lines, and so I would hope that what input we do give at a minimum would include those particular items as part of it. If staff can come up with additional stuff that they feel that we need to comment on, obviously I'd be in favor of adding that. But at a minimum, I think we should look at taking some sort of action at our January 14th meeting, I believe it is.
On the agenda.
So anyway, but I'm going to be asking that that be pulled off so we can have some additional discussions.
Okay.
And then the final thing I had is just want to say that the new pool JPA, the first meeting of the board will be this afternoon at 3 o'clock. Will be held over at City Hall, and Larry and I'll be there to represent the county, but we're going to not waste time. I mean, it's easy to say, well, it's a holiday, let's just wait till the first of the year. We want to make sure that momentum keeps going, so anybody who's interested and wants to attend can.
Okay. We're going to real fast. Due to a request, we have staff that has a move to jump over to H2, Title III allocation. We have staff that has to be getting out of here, so we can move to that. And we're also taking at the same time H4, that is also associated with Title III.
H2?
H2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item H2 is a very important item for the county. It is, the Secure Rural Schools legislation was recently approved, and what that means is that's the money that the county allocates between the schools, the roads, Title II, the RAC, and Title III projects, if the board chooses. So this just recently came out, the information. This is something that the county normally has made the decision by September 30th, but because this legislation hadn't been approved We just recently got the information to move forward, and there is a deadline for that, so I went ahead and put it on the agenda. The decision, there's 2 resolutions in the packet today. The first one would be for the board to approve the split between Title I and then Title II and Title III. The board has always done the 85% to the schools and roads. And then the second resolution, so that one's the approval to start for Title I. The second resolution that's attached is to bring before the board the decision to take the remaining 15% and allocate it to Title II and/or Title III. The maximum amount that the board can allocate to Title III is 7%, so the minimum that the RAC can receive is 8%. So the board has a choice to allocate 15% to Title II, or as this board has done the last couple of years, is 8% to the RAC, which is Title II, and 7%, which is the maximum, to Title III. But that's a decision that the board will have to decide and pass this resolution. And then I've attached quite a bit of paperwork just so that you can see what the past funding has been. I did go to the Secure Rural School website just last week and pulled up the amount that we're projected to receive. And so in my memo, the amount for Title I is projected to be, or the total payment is $1,980,244. Once they put that out, it has seemed to stay that way, but I think there's been times where it hasn't been exactly what they said. So I broke that out to illustrate for you what the split would be for Title II and Title III. The 15% remaining of that amount would be $297,037. So if the board allocates 8% to Title II, it would be $158,420, and 7% if the board allocated to Title III projects would be $138,617. In the past, as I said, the board has made this decision by September 30th, and the appropriate paperwork was sent in. I will be sending this as soon as the board makes the decision. I don't know when we will be receiving the money. When we made the decision September 30th, the money came sometime in December or early January. I don't know at this point, because this is a different year than it has been since I've dealt with this, when that money will be coming. And I'm happy to answer any questions for the board.
Thank you.
Or the public.
Julie, thank you for putting this together. I'm hoping the board will support the 8% for Title II and 7% for Title III. Reason being, Rick Washaball, who's here today, and myself have been working. There's a very much needed fire defense and fuel reduction for our community in Milford, and the Milford Community Centers. At first, they were a little bit hesitant, but we arranged a meeting, and Rick explained it, and Tom had come down and explained how things work, and so we ended up having two meetings here, right, with the community center, and they've embraced the idea, and the people are excited to mitigate fire damage in the area there. And so in order to achieve that, we would need the board support to allocate the 8% for Title II and 7% for Title III, and I'd like to make that motion that we allocate those funds.
We've got a motion, we have a second.
I'll second
Have
that.
a second, no discussion from the board, Aaron.
Yeah, Julie, what's the, because we can either take this or 25% of the actual receipts from the force. What would be the 25% of the actual receipts?
It's a lot less, I do know that. Let me look real quick, see if it says on here. They don't have a projection, but I know there's only 8 counties that do the 25%, and that's because they have very few federal lands in their counties. So they do a lot better by just taking the 25%, but for us it would be a substantial hit. I don't have that here, but it's much, much less for the roads and schools program than the $1,980,000.
Okay, well, I don't know, when this was first put out years ago, that this was a way to get the kids off the chopping block. It was an environmental place to get rid of logging, to get rid of grazing and everything else on public land. And that's why they went to this, that's why they went to the, so you get more money than you were actually getting by the actual use, and I just wanted to confirm that. And so, I mean, now they're threatening on cut, they keep dropping the rates, you know, now they're threatening to get rid of the program, period. And in the meantime, all our infrastructure's gone, we don't have any more mills, you don't have any more loggers to go out and cut trees, and you have all these other environmental rules placed, and I think it's just a travesty that this has been allowed to go on, that the people fell for it. I mean, I was back at the school, you know, back when they offered assignment for it, and I was pleading for them not to, you know, because it's just a way for the environmental community to get the kids off the chopping block, and it's kind of coming back to bite us now. So now we have all these strings attached with all this money we get, and it's terrible. And so if we were to go back to the actual 25% of the actual receipts, would we have to have these strings attached, or could we spend that money how we so desire?
I don't know the answer to that. I just know that it would not benefit this community or this county financially because it's a substantially reduced amount.
Right. But if it was, say it was only 500,000, could we spend that 500,000 wherever we wanted to, or do we have to put 80% to the school?
I don't know the answer to that. I think it would just go directly to roads and schools.
Yeah, it would be divided 50% between schools and roads. If you get 500,000, schools would get 250,000, and the roads would get 250,000. And you would have none of this other money available for other
Nothing
programs.
for the title to that.
Okay,
I'd be happy to pull some more information on that.
I was just curious, it's fine.
I have a big file at an office, so.
anybody from the public wish to comment on this agenda item? Sir, come up and say your name.
Good morning. My name is Rick Washbaum. I'm the fire chief of Milford Fire Protection District, and I'm the spokesperson for the Milford Community Association. They've prepared a statement here. The Milford Community Association is requesting the board allocate the maximum amount possible to Title III. The Milford Community Association will be implementing a Firewise fuel reduction project in 2014. The Lassen Fire Safety Council has secured a $200,000 grant for the project, and the project requires a $250,000 match from the Milford Community Association. An allocation from this year's Secures Rural School payment to Lassen County would assist us in meeting this match commitment. The Milford Community Association understands the exact amount of the funding for Title III is unknown at this time, and the Milford Community Association has developed a budget, and the request is based on last year's allocation to the county. In addition, if there are opportunities to reallocate a portion of the Title III funds from last year, we'd like to be considered for the additional funding for the Milford Fuel Reduction Project. Thank you.
Anybody else in the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. Are you guys ready to vote? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Alba?
Aye.
Supervisor Wilson?
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyle?
All right. Okay, being we're on this subject, let's take up each four as it relates to this, and we have people on the audience too that want to maybe speak on that, Larry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is what Mr. Washington spoke to, so he basically covered this. So with, I'd like to move that we approve the Title III funding request for the Milford Community Association.
Don't you have to post it for like 45 days or something?
If the board decides that they are in support of this request that the county has received, then I would go ahead and put the 45-day notice in the paper, and then it can be approved after that time, after receiving public comment on this project and what's being proposed. So I'm,
Thank you. Thanks again for.
Well, you need an action, you need action.
Yes, I would, like to make, suggest we direct staff to do the posting and.
Yeah, we're good on that, and, I mean, staff, Julie's gonna post it. And then we.
Do we need a board motion to have you post it, or do?
I usually bring it just to see if the board supported before we spend the money to post it publicly, and so that's the direction I'd be looking for. And then just 45 days to receive public comment, and it'll come back to the board with the.
So a motion would be in order.
Motion to post it.
I'd make the motion to post.
We have a second.
I'll second.
You got a motion and a second, any discussion? Darren?
Yeah, two things. The first is, I mean, is the sheriff gonna be interested in this again for a search and rescue for a portion of it again? I think that's something we can look at. And then,
Which, that'll all be taken care of, once it's posted, comes up, then people can put in for these.
oh, okay.
It's that's correct?
This request would be for the entire amount.
The entire amount is to go to Milford. Right?
That's what they're asking for, as much as they can get.
Well, between now and the 45 days, if the sheriff and somebody else would like to have a piece of that pie, they can come in and put in a request, and then that would, you know, but if they don't say anything after 45 days and it gets voted to go to Milford, then they're out of luck. So that's the purpose of the 45-day comment period, is to give others who are interested in money to say, well, we'd like to have $5,000, or we'd like to have $50,000.
And just as a reminder, there's only 3 allowable purposes for this Title III money. It's the Firewise Communities and Safe Communities and Firewise programs, and search and rescue on federal lands.
Yeah, my intent isn't to give all this to one person today. It's to post it and have the 45-day, other people can put their.
But the way you trigger that is by putting this request in for to be heard.
Public comment. And then when we come back in 45 days, you certainly can make that decision.
Then we make that decision in 45 days, who gets it.
So if we receive another request within that 45-day period,